everyone, it's Erin Cochran, the House Whisperer from revealingredesign.com. How are you? I am standing in the kitchen in my own home, my new kitchen that I just had renovated this year. And I wanted to share a little bit of the process with that and share the results. All right, so you may already know that my house is an old Pennsylvania farmhouse. The part of the house that I'm standing in right now is the oldest part of our house, which was built in, we believe, 1778. And it may be the case that this room originally was actually a bedroom, because the original hearth to our home, the great big fireplace with the big iron arm, is one floor directly below us in our basement, which is now my husband's music and project room. So this room, when we bought this house back in 1996, was a sort of a train wreck in some ways. It had adorable vintage cabinets, probably from the 1940s, but it had a totally non-functional layout where there was the fridge was all the way across the room, the stove was off by itself, there was no countertop around the stove. It just didn't make sense. And it's funny that I didn't do this for a living back then. I was a nurse back in those days, and I knew that I wanted to change this room. And really, this house, this room really is the birthplace of Revealing Redesign, because this room frustrated me to no end. I had little ones, I had a high chair, they dropped food, the floor had big grooves in it because it was actually a subfloor, not a real floor, and I was ready to pull my hair out every mealtime. And I just sat down with a pen, pencil, and paper and started working on how I could change this space. And back in those days, we just decided to reconfigure the cabinets we had, and it really started me realizing how much I love this kind of work, because we reconfigured the space, made it work so much better, painted all the original cabinets, lightened up the space, created an eating area that worked, and the room went on to serve us for another, 20 years. So this year we knew we wanted to make a big change. I've been working on a lot of people's kitchens, and both my husband and I had a lot of kitchen envy. We loved our old kitchen. It was charming and served us so well, and had a lot of the original charm, as I said. But we were ready for some updated finishes, and we wanted things to feel a little bit more high-end. And we wanted to have more function and make the room feel more spacious, make the whole downstairs work better. So this kitchen got a complete gut, which, to be honest, was not planned, which was very stressful. Even though I do this for a living, I'm not immune to things going awry or unpredictable things happening. So the kitchen Band-Aid that was supposed to be put on became a complete kitchen reno, and I'm really grateful that happened. Okay, just because we were creating a new kitchen, I certainly didn't want it to feel new. One of the most important things to me was to make this space feel like it could have been here all 200 plus years of this house's life, but also feel refreshed and clean and spiffied up. The style of cabinets that we decided on was inset doors. You can see here, what that means is the door of the cabinet fits inside the frame of the cabinet, which is a higher end detail with cabinetry and the way cabinets were made almost exclusively 200 years ago. More furniture grade type cabinets. And you can see here that I also went for cabinet hardware that would be in keeping with a kitchen, 100 plus years old. 200 years ago, they didn't really have kitchens, they had fireplaces. But anyway, more on that later, maybe not. The sink that was in the kitchen when we bought the house in 1996 was a kitchen sink from the early 1900s, probably 1930, 1940, like the rest of the kitchen. And that was a piece that we also kept so that we could hold on to that bit of character in the space. We reconfigured the space so that when you walked in our front door, you will see this cabinet straight ahead, because when you come in our front door, there's a long hallway that looks all the way to the back of the house, which is where the kitchen is. So this cabinet is framed by those doorways. And this cabinet, with its glass front cabinets and lighting and all of that, is very welcoming to come into the front door, and it looks more like a furniture piece and it really makes a statement. It's a beautiful focal point. This is our coffee bar area. So we have our coffee machine, all of our coffee mugs are up here, serving dishes and things like that. Whereas this used to be where our fridge and pantry were, which was very cute at the time, but this is a much more polished looking way for you to come into the room. One of the things that's challenging about designing a kitchen in a historic house is that these spaces weren't always meant to be kitchens. In my house's case, that's certainly true. And certainly the spaces are not laid out in such a way for modern spacing or modern life. And for example, you may notice above me, we have the original beams exposed for this room, and I'm roughly 5'8", 5'9", and I can stand here and touch the ceiling. So the volume of space in this room is not great. It's very small, which makes it cozy and lovely, but more challenging to create storage and to place some of the larger elements, boxy elements, in a modern kitchen. In this case, the things that we really struggled to find the right home for was the refrigerator and the pantry. We, for years, only had an apartment-sized fridge, which, raising 2 kids, having family come over, living here with 3 college students, my 2 kids and my daughter's girlfriend came home for all of COVID. So feeding essentially 5 adults with an apartment-sized fridge as we all lived here was a challenge, and lit a fire even more under me to renovate this kitchen. Finding a good spot for a larger fridge and for more food storage was top of our list. What we did was we took what used to be the basement staircase down to my son's room at the time. It was this tiny, tiny little spiral staircase that went downstairs to the basement. I fell down that stairs at least 3 times over the last 20-some years, so I don't miss it. We took that staircase out and took the space that the staircase was in and created a closet both on this level and in the basement. So much more storage. And now technically we can count the basement room as a 4th bedroom for our house, which is a win from an investment standpoint. And we created a pantry on this floor. Opposite the pantry is our new spot for the fridge. So those 2 things face each other and create sort of an entryway into the kitchen, a transitional space between our little sitting room and the kitchen. We worried about whether or not this would work visually, and my cabinetry guy, Brian, worked with us and encouraged us. He had this great idea of encasing the fridge there, and it just works beautifully. So we have a large fridge now and a deep pantry. It's just such a wonderful change to the space. It makes everything work better. By changing the way that that staircase was in the room, we always had a doorway that opened into where the eating area was, which was far from ideal. My son would come late to dinner and my husband would have to move his chair so the door could open. Not great. So we reoriented the opening so that it now faces the hallway, and we have a continuous wall, an L-shaped corner of our kitchen, which now serves as a place for the banquette. One of the other things that I love to put in kitchens, if you've ever seen any of the kitchens I have designed over the years, a lot of times I will put in a banquette because it creates an area of storage. It creates a cozy spot for people to sit and visit with the cook. It creates a really lovely spot that feels just so cozy to sit at and eat meals, and it really creates a sense of place in a kitchen. So now our kitchen has an even more cozy eating nook with a banquette bench, a little recessed shelf above it that offsets it with a lovely spot for display. So by creating a cozy eating area, keeping the cool vintage sink in the space, putting the fridge and the pantry outside of the main kitchen area, but still very close by, so it's convenient. Putting all these period details in, such as beadboard and custom shelving, all of that, we now have an open feeling, light, airy kitchen that functions beautifully. We love entertaining in here, and it still feels like a part of our historic house. And Penelope's been helping this whole time, which is great. You gonna help some more? Okay, so I want to start by showing you the fridge here. So here, the fridge is tucked in this little alcove. And if I turn this way, here is our eating area. The bench is built in, obviously with baskets for storage. We have this custom built-in shelf here, which just adds so much. Over here, over the door, when the room was demoed, this header was exposed, which is a hand-hewn beam. It's hard to say. When this came to light, that this was in the wall, had been covered up, I asked that this be left exposed because it shows some of the original craftsmanship of the house, and it's just super cool. Here is the kitchen sink that I mentioned earlier. We, got a lot of pushback wanting to keep this, but I just think it's so charming. And we had a new cabinet made to be placed under it that fits it beautifully and makes it functional. We have trash on one side and recycling on the other. Works great and keeps that little bit of character in the kitchen. Oh, and another detail that I love in our backsplash here, instead of just cutting, we had the stone placed behind the range for easy cleaning rather than tile, which is a detail that I love, and I've used this in a couple of the kitchens I've designed. And instead of just having it cut square, I had them bring this radius down here and create this lovely sort of arc on either side of the range, which is just really graceful and shows the stone off beautifully and just looks more custom. I hope you've enjoyed this video going over all the process of this, how we change things in our kitchen. I hope it inspires you to think about your kitchen in a new way and see all the possibility that's there. Even if you have a very small space with a lot of limitations, there's so many creative ideas that you can employ to make the space work better and to feel great. Thanks again. See you in the next video.